Hello, everyone, and welcome to Living Healthy and Aging Well. My name is Ken Haglind, and we are broadcasting from the AM 950 radio station that overlooks Bryant Lake Regional Park, located in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. It is another beautiful day here in the Twin Cities, and I am so grateful to be here with you today. I hope all of you listening are doing well. We are on the air every Saturday from noon to 1 to talk about your health and your life. We cover a wide range of topics to help you and your loved ones improve and enjoy your quality of life. We have another great show for you today. Joining me in a few minutes will be James Falvey. He is the Executive Director at Friends and Company, and he is here to talk about the services his organization provides to foster friendships for older adults. Friends and Company, formerly Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly in Minnesota, has served older adults in Minnesota for over 50 years. They foster meaningful connections for older adults, and maybe an older adult or know someone that is. They offer following free services: Coffee Talk, which is a quick drop-in chat line, phone and visiting companionship services, and a cards connection service. There's something for everyone. Whatever you choose, Friends and Company is the place to be. At Friends and Company, their purpose is to create meaningful connections that enrich people's lives and provide a sense of belonging that nourishes all of us, which is a fundamental human need. You will enjoy listening to my conversation today with James Falvey. I want to thank all of you that leave us messages on our radio show phone line. We appreciate hearing from you, and we welcome your comments, questions, and, of course, topics for future shows. Also, if you are interested in being a guest on our radio show, please call or text us at 612-999-3426. You can also contact us on our website at livinghealthyradio.com. There you can find information about upcoming guests as well as listen to our previous shows, and we look forward to hearing from you. We are adding new listeners to the show each week, not only here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, but also throughout the country. You can find podcasts for all of our radio shows on the AM 950 radio website, and we can also be found on iTunes, Spotify, and many other podcast and streaming services. You can also watch our broadcast live on the radio station's Facebook page at AM 950 Radio. If you have a question for us today, there are two ways to reach us. First, by calling the AM 950 radio station, and our friendly show engineer, Tom, will get your call on the air. Our phone number is 952-946-6205. Once again, 952-946-6205. Or you can directly text us your questions at 612-999-3426. Now, don't worry if you missed those contact numbers. I'll repeat them throughout the show. All right. I want to welcome my guest for today's show, James Falvey, Executive Director at Friends and Company. Welcome to the show, James.
Ken, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So just to make sure this is clear to people in the audience, this has nothing to do with the show Friends.
Thank you. Yeah.
Although as I get to know you, there's a lot of connections there about the relationships that are built from the Friends show. But Friends and Company, this is just a fascinating organization, and the mission you guys have, we're going to talk about that. But what I'm so curious about is, how did you get involved in this? So maybe give us a little bit of a background, and then how you transitioned into the executive director of Friends and Company.
Yeah, it's a long, vicarious path I've taken to be where I am today. And so really, if I look back at my life as a young adult, I got involved in nonprofit organizations, working with environmental organizations first, doing environmental advocacy, direct actions, etc. Really satisfying as a young adult. And as I was traveling around the country doing this work, we would encounter small town organizations that started up, fighting a David and Goliath type battle, whatever that might be. And what we would see time and time again is these organizations that would come together with all the passion in the world and start to kind of crumble a little bit, because nobody starts organizations because they want to write the best business plan. Nobody starts a nonprofit organization because they want to be the best fundraiser ever. They start because of that passion. And And without the infrastructure of a good business plan and good fundraising strategies, organizations kind of go into boom and bust cycles. And that ends up being really destabilizing for whatever cause. And so a little light bulb went off over my head as a young adult out there, being radical, quote unquote. And it's like, hey, maybe I could really, benefit the world around me if I really focus on what it takes to help organizations be strong and sustainable. And that's kind of created the thread of my career. And so for environmental work came, I was down in La Crosse, Wisconsin, working for a land trust and got a certification called CFRE, Certified Fundraising Executive, and that changed my life a little bit. I got recruited to do major gift fundraising for a small university, Viterbo University down in La Crosse, and then that kind of changed my world, getting that experience. I was then recruited to run the United Way, Great Rivers United Way down in La Crosse, and that got me into the field of human services, where when I decided to come back here to the Twin Cities, applied for the job here at what was then called Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly, we now call Friends & Co. And they've given me the job almost 10 years ago, and we've been going ever since.
So I just love that so many people on the show, over the history of the show, they were doing one thing for part of their life, and then all of a sudden they shifted to a different. Sometimes it was very intentional, and other times it was unintentional. They just realized something, an opportunity came along, and it's just so interesting, because when they look at their life, many of them say, boy, I just am so much more passionate about what I do today than I did maybe 15, 20 years ago when they started out their career. So it's interesting. There's so many people just like you and I that shifted gears in the mid-career.
Yeah. I feel like my passion maybe has stayed kind of similar, and maybe another thread to my career arc has really been focusing on justice and how to make the world better around me. Growing up as a camper in the Boundary Waters, we always knew that we need to keep that campsite in better shape as we leave it than when we found it. And if we kind of take that into our lives and our professional careers, we can say to ourselves, what can I do to make this world just a little bit better around me and leave this place in maybe a slightly better condition than when we found it.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about the history of Friends and Company. You said it really goes back to France.
Yeah. Le Petit Frère du Pauvre, which is really bad French, and I apologize to anyone who speaks French. The Little Friars of the Poor, Little Brothers of the Poor, is the organization. Still in France, one of the largest charities they have in that country. There's chapters in basically every town in that country. Wow. And it formed because there was a gentleman by the name of Armand Marcuse who wanted to create an organization where young men could dedicate their lives, much like monks, to serving people in need. And right after World War II, there became a really big need. As the Marshall Plan was being rolled out to provide food and shelter to people, they found that there was all sorts of older adults in France who had lost everything. And so the food was being provided, the shelter was being provided, but they had no social connections whatsoever. And so the young men decided to dedicate their lives to the poverty of spirit that people were experiencing, even though some of the physical needs were being met. And that's what kind of ignited this whole movement. So it was in the 1940s, right after World War II, that the organization first started, first with just young men dedicating their entire lives, going all in. By the time it came to the United States in the 1950s, first landing in Chicago, it was very much like Dorothy Day's Catholic Workers Movement. It was young people, men and women, dedicating their lives, living in community to serve people in need, specifically in the need of social isolation or social engagement. Came to the Twin Cities in 1972. We had an office that we occupied and lived in right on Lake Street at Longfellow, across from the big cemetery that people might know.
Yeah.
And I love telling people that for 2.5 years, the community hired August Wilson to be their cook. He's the American playwright who's very famous. And this was before he got famous, but he read Fences for the very first time in our old office building. Had his wedding reception to his second wife in our old office building before he moved on to bigger and brighter things with his career.
Right. Wow. So when did you guys make the name change then?
So is 2022, we went through
just recently.
Yeah, just recently we changed to Friends & Co. from Little Brothers, Friends of the Elderly. So in the 1980s, we went from
Right.
Little Brothers of the Poor to Little Brothers, Friends of the Elderly, which was a better description for the United States, because in France, being poor means not having what you need. In America, being poor means not having money. And so there's a subtle but important difference. And so they made that change back in the 1980s, which helped a little bit. But I think it still ends up being confusing. Little Brothers doesn't really describe the men and women who are coming together.
True.
We're not really living a monk-like lifestyle. So that was a stumbling block for us. And then referring to older adults as the elderly, we have to remind ourselves, if we put the in front of any group of people that we're talking about, it puts kind of a separation between us. And even the American Psychological Association that does the APA format for our reports, for our theses, they say we're not supposed to use the word elderly to describe another person as a noun. You're not allowed to do that in your report because it is a little bit degrading. There's enough negative connotations with the word elderly that they encourage us not to use that word. So after George Floyd was murdered, and all of us started to look a lot more closely at how are we contributing to the injustices in the world around us, it occurred to us that we can't really continue to use a name that others, the people that we intend to serve, or puts them in a negative light. So it was really important for us to go through a very thorough process to kind of land at the new name, Friends & Co.
Friends & Co. I love it. I love it. It's time for a short break. We'll be right back to continue our conversation with James Falvey, Executive Director at Friends & Company, regarding the services his organization provides to foster friendships for older adults. If you have a question, please give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. I'm Ken Haglind, and you're listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well.
Hi, I'm Corey Wisco, president of the Welshire. The Welshire excels as a memory care community in the Twin Cities, located in Bloomington, and we have a new location in Medina. But what makes Welshire so different is the people that we have working for us. Our team has been together for the past 25 years providing this type of care. We employ some of the most amazing nurses and LPNs that are in the building 24 hours a day. We also have an activity team that is over 40 people. And our scheduling begins at 9 o'clock in the morning for activities, and it goes to 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that's 7 days a week. You won't find that. That is why many of the families that come to Welshire are actually coming from another memory care facility. Not all memory care is created equally. And that's why I encourage you, if you've had issues and problems at other places, come see what makes us so special. Please visit thewelshiremn.com and book a tour.
Hi, everybody. This is Paul Metza, host of The Wall of Power Radio, going on almost 11 years every Saturday night at 6 p.m. on AM 950. Great new show this week with legendary booking agent Mike Kappas. Talks about his time booking people from Muddy Waters to John Lee Hooker to John Hammond, John Hyatt, and more. We get inside workings, how he started out in Eau Claire, made his way to San Francisco, booked over 14,000 shows. 6 p.m. Saturday night.
Progressive change doesn't just happen. It takes dedication and a lot of hard work. 25 years ago, the Databank pioneered a new generation of software tools for progressive organizations here in Minnesota. Since then, thousands of organizations have used the Databank to create progressive change. Today, the Databank continues to help progressive organizations like AM 950. To have the Databank help your organization build capacity and create more change, text CHANGE to 612-540-0500 or go to thedatabank.com. The Databank, a quarter century of dedication and hard work for progressive organizations.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about the joy of live fire cooking. Cooking over a live fire is the oldest and most basic form of cooking.
What's new is in the way fire is handled and its heat is managed.
It's easier to experience and enjoy the smell and taste of food cooked over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs live fire grills, fire pits, and ovens. Let us help you experience the smell, the taste, the fun of cooking with fire.
Pizza was first made and is still best made in an open fire oven. The radiant and conductive heat of a live fire is unmatched for wood roasting and baking artisan breads too.
Come see the many ways you can cook over a live fire.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
All right, welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about helping you and your loved ones improve and enjoy your highest quality of life. My name is Ken Haglind, and joining me today is James Falvey, Executive Director at Friends & Company, and he's here talking about the services his organization provides to foster friendships with older adults. Friends & Company, formerly Little Brothers Friends of the Elderly, has served older adults in Minnesota for over 50 years. They foster meaningful connections for older adults. And maybe you're an older adult or you know someone that is. They offer the following free services. And we'll talk about this here in the next segment. Coffee talk, a quick drop-in chat line, phone and visiting companionship services, and a cards connection service. There is something for everyone. James, how can our listeners contact you and your organization if they have questions or want more information?
Ken, I think the obvious answer for me is come visit our website at friendsco.org. Gives you all the information, shows you how to sign up for the services, or if you want to sign up to be a volunteer, or if you'd like to make a financial contribution for the important work that we do. That's the place to do it.
Okay, great. And so that's friendsco, so friendsco.org.
Exactly right.
All right. And so if a person was looking to make a donation, where would they go on your website? 'Cause a lot of people will follow along during the show here.
Yeah. I think as we scroll down, you'll see that there's a donate button that you can click on. And from there, it should take you to a secure part of our site.
Okay, I got it down here. Make an impact. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's important to remember that currently we're not taking any government money, and the work that we do is always offered free of charge to the older adults. Nobody wants to pay for a friend, nor should they. And so as a community, when we start to understand how important this is, Ken, not just important to us as an individual. If I'm alone and lonely, having a friend is obviously very, very important to me. But I think it's important for us to remind people that this is important for our communities. That when we are socially connected, we do better. We understand the world around us better because the people around us give us relativity. If we're sitting in isolation, we're really limiting the information we take in, which then limits our ability to understand the world around us. It causes us to imagine simple solutions to complex problems. It allows us to get really angry and distance ourselves further from other people. So it's really, really important for our communities that we stay socially engaged with one another so that we can live in the best communities possible.
Mm-hmm. When it goes right to the vision and mission of the show here is to improve quality of life. And that comes in so many ways. But I'll tell you, we've learned in the hospice profession that isolation, loneliness, and boredom is terminal. Yeah. It's really a critical thing that people understand that. And unfortunately, as people age, there is a little bit of a withdrawal. Sometimes it's a limitation of mobility. They just don't have the ability to get out. But so many doctors I've had on the show and other professionals have said you've got to have a connection. You in fact, without promoting hospice here, but studies have shown that if a person's on hospice, they actually live long. They tend to live longer. And one of the big reasons is that they have something to look forward to. Someone's coming to visit them next week. The social worker, the nurse, the aide, the chaplain. All these amazing people that have got such a calling and a gift to give as a part of this hospice program and hospice service, or palliative, whatever it may be. But it gives people something to look forward to. And just that interaction, And as I was telling you earlier, Medicare requires us to have at least 5% of our patient hours be done by volunteers.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And so again, we find these amazing volunteers that love to give an hour of their time once a month or whatever they can do, and just to sit with a patient, or in your case here, contact them. So I think research is showing how critical it is to have connection.
Yeah, when we think about our wellness plan, we really need to think about what are we eating, what's in our diet.
Sure.
We need to think about what our physical activity is going to look like that's appropriate for us in whatever stage we are in life. We also have to have a social engagement strategy, because all of us as we age are going to lose family and friends.
Right.
They're going to move away, they're going to pass away, and if we don't have an active strategy to continue to bring people into our lives, we will become more and more isolated. So aging is a risk factor for social isolation.
Well, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Boy, that is so true. We could have a whole show just on that, but it is one of the things that I think as we become more aware of how our society, and we think we are so connected with the phones and the social media and things, but that is different. That's passive, not being active. Here you and I are talking, engaging. I never met you before, but I'm learning things throughout our conversation, both before the show and during the show, that are adding to my life.
Well, and then it's even just the body language we share between us sitting at the same table together is a much different experience than if we were talking on the phone, because it would have been technically possible, I assume, for this interview to take place over the phone, but we would be picking up so much less information from one another, which then I think feeds our ability to continue to articulate our thoughts and ideas in a way that makes sure that you're absorbing them and understanding. You nod in understanding, I can move on. If you put a big question mark on your face, I'm going to go back and maybe reiterate what I'm trying to say. And that stuff really, really matters. Yeah,
it's so true, because I just, from a standpoint of that, I don't like doing phone interviews. I love people coming in here on a Saturday at noon to spend an hour face to face. I find I just enjoy it so much more. Well, I think the audience does too.
Yeah, I think we have to actually change the term and call it anti-social media. Because really, when we think about social media and when we think about zooming in on meetings, which many of us have kind of fallen into with the current state of affairs, it's kind of like eating junk food on a road trip. It's incredibly convenient to pull through the drive-thru and eat whatever it is that they're serving. And it can even potentially taste good. But over a long period of time, you're not going to get the nutrients and the nourishment that you need. Your health is going to deteriorate. And similarly, when we use social media and we use distance forms of communication, it's like junk food. It might not kill us in the instant, but it is degrading the quality of our experiences, and that's really, really important to understand. Because Cigna did a study, this must have been about 5 years ago, about a third of all Americans, every age group, is socially isolated to the point where their health is affected.
Oh, I believe that.
Every single age, not just the older adults.
It's so interesting, because another study just came out recently that said people who spend the majority of their day on Zoom calls, because people are working remote and they're not going to the office or whatever the case may be, that their satisfaction in life drops, because even though they're talking, they may have many people on a call, they're still isolated. And it's such a fascinating study that was done. And they said, if you're remote and working from home, there's a lot of people that live alone that are working remote, and it becomes really a problem that, again, that the frog is slowly boiling to death and doesn't realize it. Like you said, it doesn't kill us immediately, but it continues to degrade the quality of life. And again, it makes us almost atrophy in our ability to then truly socialize with people too.
Which then leads to depression and anxiety, which puts bigger distances in our ability to form meaningful relationships.
And then we get depressed, and then we eat bad, and we don't do the things. I mean, it does all contribute to quality of life.
Yep, really important
stuff. All
right,
the music is cueing us out here, James. We got to run quickly here. It's time for a short break, folks. We'll be right back to continue our conversation with James Falvey, Executive Director at Friends & Company. And we will be right back. If you have a question, give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. I'm Ken Haglind, and you are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950 for Snap Construction again. Does your home feel colder than it should with the furnace constantly running? Or do certain rooms always feel colder than the rest of the house? Those are signs the attic in your home may need an insulation upgrade. Snap Construction can help by providing a free energy audit for your home's insulation. The average cost of getting new insulation can cost much less than a new furnace. Plus, Snap Construction is a BPI certified installer. That means if you use Snap for your next insulation project, you qualify for up to $650 in total rebates from your energy provider. After my free inspection, my insulation upgrade was completed within a few weeks and the rebate check was in the mail. Snap to it and reduce your heating bill this winter with Snap Construction. Call 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP for your free energy audit when you mention AM 950. Snap Construction, arguably the most well-reviewed exterior contractor and insulation company in the metro.
In these challenging times under the second Trump administration, reading can be a powerful tool to manage stress and anxiety, and Next Chapter booksellers can help. Their newest table features books designed to channel anxiety into meaningful action. From Noam Chomsky to Henry David Thoreau, it's a collection that invites you to reflect, learn, and take action during chaotic times. Explore the full list of titles at nextchapterbooksellers.com. That's Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grant, here to help keep your sanity.
Minnesotans are hardy. We don't let snow or ice get in our way. We have places to go, so making sure your vehicle is in prime shape for winter driving is so important. Take your vehicle to Rudy Luther Toyota for all your service needs. I was just there. I got my oil and filters replaced, and they did a complete safety check to make sure my vehicle can tackle winter. And they service all makes and models of vehicles. Head to rudyluthertoyota.com and use their super easy Toyota service schedule to set up your service appointment today. Rudy Luther Toyota on the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. Hi everyone, Twitter is a cesspool of ugliness and hate. Facebook, Instagram, and Threads all no longer allow basic fact-checking, meaning hate and bigotry will be officially recognized as acceptable discourse. Even TikTok is headed into the right-wing toilet. But fret not, come to where the sky is blue. Both AM 950 Radio and the Matt McNeil Show are now on Blue Sky. Remember the time when you didn't despise checking your social media accounts? That's Blue Sky. Sign up today, then search and follow the Matt McNeil Show and AM 950 Radio, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
I'm Dr. Stefano Sinacropi, an orthopedic spine surgeon and wellness evangelist, hosting the brand new Recharging the Human Battery show on AM 950 Radio. My co-host Mandy Dickey and I will delve into various health topics, ranging from medicine to nutrition to exercise, emerging technologies, and yes, some way out there stuff. We'll provide a balanced view of today's landscape, helping listeners navigate its complexities and hoping to change the way you think about your health. Recharging the Human Battery airs Saturdays at 11 a.m.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Tom Winston. For today, partly sunny with a high 50 degrees. For tonight, clear, low 30. And tomorrow, even better, sunny with a high 55. Nightingale's your cozy, comfortable neighborhood bar and destination restaurant featuring delicious food and drinks. Offerings include the famous Nightingale Burger and Fries, ginger tamari chicken wings, duck pastrami Reuben. Takeout orders still available. Nightingale, MPLS.com.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Saturday. Welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about helping you and your loved ones improve and enjoy your highest quality of life. My name is Ken Haglind, and joining me today is James Falvey, Executive Director at Friends & Company, regarding the services his organization provides to foster friendships with older adults. Before we return to our conversation with James Falvey, I want to mention this show is brought to you in part each week by Minnesota Hospice. Minnesota Hospice is an independent, locally owned medical practice serving our Twin Cities communities with comprehensive end-of-life health care. The team at Minnesota Hospice provides patients and family members with award-winning end-of-life healthcare services. You may not be aware that hospice brings compassionate medical, social, emotional, and spiritual services right to your home with typically no cost to you or your family. Please do not wait to learn how hospice care can benefit you and your loved ones. If you have any questions regarding end-of-life care or support, please contact the compassionate team of experts at Minnesota Hospice. They are available to answer your questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A registered nurse will be answering your calls. The phone number for them is 952-898-1234. 1022. Once again, 952-898-1022. Or you can simply visit them online at minnesotahospice.com. All right, let's return to our conversation with James Falvey. If you have a question for James, please give us a call, 952-946-6205, or you can text us your questions at 612-999-3426. James, how can our listeners contact you and your organization if they have questions or want more information?
Ken, thanks. I think the best way is to come to our website, which is friendsco.org. There you can learn about the services, learn about ways in which you could volunteer or make contributions to make this work possible all around the state of Minnesota.
And what a great program. I am just learning about this for the first time, and I am amazed at the services that you guys provide. Let's spend this segment talking about the many services that you guys provide to our communities.
Sure, yeah. So I think, the first and kind of what we consider our flagship program, we call our Visiting Companion Program. And that's where we find older adults who will sign up for these services. And then we go out and recruit and train and do background checks on volunteers. And we match them up in a one-to-one relationship. So Ken, in theory, you could sign up as a volunteer. We would put you through the process, make sure there isn't any questionable things in your background that would cause us to pause in introducing you to an older adult in the community. And set you free to go ahead and form a friendship, visiting in person as often and as much as you'd like.
Now, is there a training program that you have a volunteer go through just so they understand maybe the world that they're walking into here?
Absolutely, yep. So in addition to a criminal background check, we do a training process to help people understand what they're getting into, really understand too what the parameters of this is, because this is an organization, Friends & Co. is an organization that really focuses on social engagement and friendships. And so it turns out that a lot of the people that we work with have more than just a need for a friend. Sometimes they have other social service needs, and where we'll never turn our backs on older adults in need, we'll look to other organizations to provide those services. But sometimes in these relationships, one of the people will ask more and more of the other person, and we really want to make sure that those boundaries are kind of clear and obvious, and make sure that there's a structure and people kind of understand what this is and what this isn't. This isn't a dating service. This isn't, this isn't it isn't a food delivery service. It isn't a take me to the shopping mall service. All of those can happen within a healthy friendship, but we really want to make sure this is focused on friendship and not a dependency.
Yes, I could see that being a huge problem. We see that in palliative care and hospice care. Boundaries are so critical, but for both the health and welfare of the provider, of the volunteer, but also of then the recipient or the patient.
Wow. Even things like accepting gifts. It's really clear.
Yes.
We have to be really clear that token gifts under a few dollars isn't a big deal, but we don't want this to become a dependency, and we don't want a reputation to develop where if one volunteer was to accept a generous gift from the older adult that they were working with, that could be perceived by other people as maybe being exploitive.
Yes.
It might not have had any intention that way, but
right.
again, we just draw those lines and have those boundaries to make sure, we're just going to stay in this lane of let's be friends, let's be showing up for each other, let's get to know each other, let's support each other emotionally, and leave the other stuff.
Is there some training or expectation setting with the older adults?
We're doing more and more of that now. We really have to and kind of section. One of the things we're doing with this program is really we're trying to level the playing field. When I came into this organization, there was kind of an assumption that we were recruiting volunteers to be kind of the supermen and the superwomen who can come in and save the day for some older adult who's down on their luck. And while that is there is a thread of truth to that dynamic, what we're realizing is no, this is a friendship, and friendships find their own balance. In fact, I did some roundtable conversations when I first started in my first year, and we had volunteers that would one of the volunteers, it's really vivid in my mind, he stood up and he said, his hands smacking on the table, I'll be darned, I thought I was stepping forward to help some poor lonely soul in my neighborhood or in my community, and I'll be damned if I don't get more out of this relationship than I could ever put into it. Which I think is true with every good friendship, right? You always feel grateful for the people that are your friends, and you always feel like you're getting more than you're giving.
Yes.
And probably is not exactly true, but this is the essence of it. And so what we've been trying to do is really talk about people joining our organization as members and stepping forward to be a friend to another person. It turns out that a lot of our volunteers are older than the older adult that they step forward to serve. Not necessarily that was a thing. And so as we kind of normalize that relationship and ask people to come together to be friends, we're going to always want to find an older adult as part of that friendship pair, because that's our mission, is to try to address social isolation amongst older adults throughout Minnesota. But at the end of the day, friendships are friendships, and when we're doing this right, there isn't a hierarchy or an imbalance, and that's really important. And Ken, this is actually something that was really important for us to learn and continue to learn, because we've been offering our services at no cost to older adults, and for the longest time, we had a hard time getting older adults to sign up. Which you'd think, free lunch, who doesn't want that? But it turns out people don't want to take. People want to give. I assume most people go to the food shelf 3 days after they run out of food, not 3 days before they run out of food. And similarly, especially with older generations, that idea of independence and pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps. People don't typically want to take from the community. They want to give to the community. And we have to kind of now then recalibrate the way we talk about this, because volunteers were stepping up in great numbers, but the older adults weren't, because there's like, no, I don't need that. Or I bet there's somebody who needs it even more than I do.
That's what it is.
Yes, I'm lonely, but I'm sure there's somebody even more lonely than me. And so we've had to kind of clean up the way we talk about it. And that's been really helpful, to the point now where we've got a waiting list of older adults in our Visiting Companion program looking for volunteers to step forward who can come out and be friends with them and spend time with them. So it's so wonderful to be on your show talking to your wonderful audience today, Ken, because this is an opportunity for people to say, hey, you know what? An extra friendship in my life wouldn't kill me. Turns out
it may benefit me.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Turns out we're all at risk for social isolation. All of us, as we age, are going to see our friends and our family members possibly move away, possibly pass away. And if we don't have a strategy to keep bringing people into our lives, we are going to be one of the 1 in 3 people that become socially isolated, to the point where our physical and our mental health suffer. And we want to avoid that. We don't need that.
No, that's for sure. We've got a couple more minutes here in this segment. Tell us about the other programs that you have, the other services you have.
Yeah, so the Visiting Companion has always been kind of our flagship program. As COVID occurred, we really leaned into our Phone Companion program, which is similar, where we're pairing one vetted and trained volunteer with an older adult so that they can be in touch by way of phone. That works really well for us, especially with older Minnesotans in greater Minnesota, where the matching process just gets kind of spread out and becomes a little bit more challenging. It's wonderful because we still have relationships where we get to know one another more intimately, so we start to understand the details, the things that are important in our lives. So that's an important program. Another program we launched at COVID we call Coffee Talk, which is just a warm line. It's just a simple toll-free number that people can call and talk to a trained volunteer. Now this time it's going to be whichever volunteer picks up the phone. We run this from 8 in the morning until 12 o'clock at noon, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. But again, it's a no-cost service. I don't know what people's phone systems are, but we have a toll-free number for people to call in and talk. And then that's just another wonderful way for people to kind of test the waters. You can do it anonymously. You don't have to even give us your real name. But we find that we have what I affectionately refer to as frequent flyers. People are calling that line on a very regular basis, some daily, some weekly, to the point where our volunteers start to get to know these personalities and build friendships. But this also becomes then a platform to talk about these other services. Would you like a dedicated phone companion that you can, build that relationship with? Would you consider a visiting companion where you could be in a person-to-person relationship? And that's really important. And so those are kind of some of our big flag, our big ticket programs. We also have a program we call Let's Do Lunch Cafe. One of the things, Ken, we've learned is that people from the LGBTQ plus communities are at a higher risk of social isolation, especially the older generations who grew up in a time where there was even less acceptance of those lifestyles and that way of living than there are now. And we learned that some people were even kind of going back into the closet as they went into assisted living, working and living with people where they didn't feel safe and secure, and maybe experienced some forms of prejudice that kept them from feeling fair. there. So we put together a no-cost lunch that we put on now twice a month for members of those communities to come together and be in social engagement and around lunch. Sometimes speakers will come in and be kind of a lunch and learn experience. Other times it's just a social engagement. We've also launched something we call Café Conversaciones, which is me poorly pronouncing Spanish, which is a coffee gathering for Spanish-speaking older adults that we're doing in partnership with an organization called DARTS in Dakota County.
Yes, I had them on the show.
Good, yeah. And now with Centro Tyrone Guzman, we're piloting a similar Café Conversaciones with them and the Spanish speakers who are more located in central Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. All right, we're in the last minute here. I'm going to sign us out for this segment. We'll be back for the fourth one.
Good.
And we'll finish up our conversation. It's time for a short break, folks. We'll be right back to continue our conversation with James Falvey, Executive Director at Friends and Company, regarding the services his organization provides to foster friendships for older adults. Whatever you choose in terms of the services that he just went up and talked about, Friends and Company is the place to be. At Friends and Company, their purpose is to create meaningful connections that enrich people's lives and provide a sense of belonging that nourishes all of us, which is a true fundamental human need. If you have a question for us, please give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. I'm Ken Haglind, and you are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well.
Decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextsstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Peace of mind shouldn't cost a fortune. We keep things simple at Schroman Law because we believe planning for your estate and end-of-life care shouldn't be stressful or expensive. Every client relationship starts with a free consultation so clients have the information they need before making important decisions. From there, we work closely with clients to ensure they are choosing the most efficient and cost-effective plans for their specific needs. Schedule a free consultation today at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Hi, it's Penny from Nightingale in Minneapolis. Since 2012, we've been your go-to dining spot near 26th and Lyndale in South Minneapolis. Indulge in classics like our scallops, steak tartare, Nightingale burger, and the irresistible chocolate pot de creme. Chef Carrie keeps it fresh with seasonal dishes. We have craft cocktails and curated wines for anyone's taste. And Mondays mean half-price wine bottles. Open daily 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. with the full menu until midnight. Join us at Nightingale where good times and great flavors come together.
Do you remember that invincible feeling you used to have? The boundless energy, the clarity of mind, the effort with which you faced every challenge? What if you could feel that again? If you ever took a biology class and heard the term mitochondria, this is the powerhouse of each of your body's cells, and this is where energy is created to do all the things we do. The demands of modern life, such as stress, aging, and environmental toxins, decrease our mitochondrial function, and we experience things like decreased energy, brain fog, and we generally feel exhausted. At Hypercharge Wellness Centers, our treatments offer gateways to rediscover your lost essence, to feel alive, invigorated, and whole once more. Call or go online to schedule your free introductory session valued at $200 today. This is your opportunity to feel the difference for yourself. No matter where you are in the Twin Cities, there is a convenient location near you. Visit hyperchargeclinic.com now. That's hyperchargeclinic.com. Hypercharge is hope.
All right, welcome back, everyone. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about helping you and your loved ones improve and enjoy your quality of life. My name is Ken Haglind, and joining me today is James Falvey. He is the Executive Director at Friends and Company, and he's here talking about the services his organization provides to foster friendships for older adults. If you have a question for us, please give us a call, 952-946-6205, or text us at 612-999-3426. James, how can our listeners contact you or your organization if they have questions or want more information or are interested in volunteering or interested in donating?
Yeah.
What's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
All of those, Ken, are well activated through our website, which is friendsco.org. Friends, plural, CO for company or for community or for companionship or for all the other CO words that pertain to our organization, friendsco.org.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, great website. Please, I would encourage people to check that out. As you mentioned earlier, there is a unlimited demand for the services you guys provide. It's growing, and you guys need more volunteers.
Yep.
You need more support. And again, you guys do this in private funds.
Yeah. So I think, Ken, one of the things I think is really important to talk about with our organization is we're a little bit different than a lot of human service organizations. Most human service organizations have some sort of what we call a fee-for-service model.
Right.
They're providing kind of an agency response. So if there's a need for food, we will buy food and provide units of food to certain numbers of people. With our work, and when we think about social isolation, we know that there's literally tens of thousands of older adults in Minnesota who are socially isolated to the point where their wellness is affected. For us to address that problem with an agency, you couldn't give us enough money. We couldn't hire enough people to suddenly get out there and befriend everybody. So what we think about is instead of an agency response, we think about a community response. How do we get all of us to find our path towards supporting socially engaged communities? And so I love to remind people, we live in a part of the world where when there's a big snowstorm like we just had not so long ago, you're going to see somebody shoveling somebody else's sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
When you have a neighbor coming home from the hospital, maybe with a newborn, maybe with some surgery or whatever, you're going to see neighbors showing up with hot dish. And this is the carrying capacity that we all have, and this is exactly what we need to do. So if we're going to solve the problem of a growing problem of social isolation, what we need to do is tap into that energy that we already have. And so when you think about that neighbor for whom you just shoveled their sidewalk, maybe you need to stop over for a cup of coffee once or twice a month just to see how they're doing, just to check on them. And that's the type of social engagement that solves this problem.
Yeah.
We don't need a large government program to solve this problem. We just need to kind of give ourselves permission to say, hey, let's take an active and healthy interest in the people around us. How do we stay connected? How do we stay engaged? How do we just check on each other once in a while? And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people that are hard to reach, though. Not everybody lives in a beautiful neighborhood, and I think that's where an organization like Friends & Co. becomes really, really important, because we can kind of provide some structure for that. We can find those people who maybe live on a street that only has one house, and we can find volunteers to step forward. As we've been marketing our work and letting more and more people know about this and how important it is, we found that there's now a growing number of older adults that are on a waiting list for a friendship, for a visiting companion. And so we do need to I would love to make an appeal to your audience to help us spread the word. You as a listener might want to consider, checking out our website and consider a pathway to volunteering with us. But even maybe more importantly, we need more people just talking about this issue, that social isolation is really, really toxic.
Yeah.
We were talking during the break, they've determined that solitary confinement is considered a form of torture.
Right.
And we have people in our communities that are bragging about their grandmother who lives in the farmhouse out in the farm field, who's been living by herself for years and years. My wonderful father-in-law was a rural mail carrier in western Wisconsin, and he had an agreement with some of his patrons that if they had the drapes open, he knew they were okay. If he ever delivered the mail and the drapes were closed, he'd get out of his mail truck, because he was literally the only person that would drive past their house to even know that they're there or not there.
Right.
And That's not excellent. That's not excellent. Yes, people want their independence. Yes, people love the comfort of their own home. But we need to make sure that people have the social engagement to really be healthy and well. And when we think about this kind of community response, we all have to take a role in that rather than try to think that there's a government program that can be developed to solve this. That's not the right way to do it. We don't want a program. We don't want to pay people to be friends. We want friendships to occur naturally. And that's what makes them really, really valuable.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a great facilitation service you're providing, and it's throughout the state of Minnesota. So it's not just for the metro area or just for a certain county or city.
Exactly right.
Okay.
It's really easy for us to reach with the Warm Line and with the phone companion program because those aren't really limited.
Right.
The visiting companion program, we're really challenged. We do have people who have signed up in greater Minnesota, and the wait times are becoming kind of like painfully long right now because it's just a lot harder for us to recruit the volunteers in proximity. But we always welcome people into the Warm Line, which we call Coffee Talk. We always welcome people into the phone companion program, and both of those can be bridging programs. If somebody's waiting for a while to have an actual visiting companion, they can sign up for those programs.
Wow. So from a volunteer standpoint, like how often would they visit one of their members or
So when a volunteer comes in, we really want the friendship to be as organic as possible. So we try to avoid like having a very specific script for how it works. But if we can imagine between 4 and 6 hours of engaged time each month, and that could be one visit a month for 6 hours or for 4 hours, or it could be a check-in once a week, and really help that allow people to kind of tailor that friendship to what really works for them. And so we want that flexibility, but we want there to be enough consistency to know that this is meaningful. Stopping by once every other year wouldn't quite cut it for us.
No. So it's part of the expectation then for volunteers that it would be like 4 to 6 hours a month for a dedicated member of
the visiting companion
program.
Exactly right.
Otherwise, it could be part of the phone Warm Line program or.
So there's the phone companion program. Again, you would be a 1-to-1 ratio volunteer calling on the same older adult each time, and that typically once a week. But again, negotiated between the two people individually. Sometimes long conversations, less frequently, really feel right, and sometimes lots of checking calls every other day just for 10 or 15 minutes. Again, we're not trying to predetermine that, but what our organization is really, really good at is understanding you, the volunteer, and what you have to give. And then working to pair you with somebody that's ready to accept that which you have to give, and not try to force you into an awkward situation.
Right. Wow, what a great organization!
Ken, thank you. I appreciate
We're at the end of the show already, James.
I can't believe it.
And it flies by, doesn't it?
It really does.
I want to thank James Falvey, Executive Director at Friends and Company, for sharing the services his organization provides to foster friendships for older adults. James, how can our audience get a hold of you if they have questions, want to volunteer, want to donate?
Once again, Ken, it's friendsco.org, friends, plural, co.org.
All right, fantastic. We hope you enjoyed today's show, folks. Please contact us with any questions or comments you have regarding today's conversation. You can reach us anytime by voice or text at 612-999-3426. Join us again next Saturday at noon for Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about your health and your life. Until next time, choose to live well.
And I've been waiting such a long time for Saturday.
Hi, I'm Corey Wisco, president of the Welshire. The Welshire is a community that provides memory care to its residents, and we have a location in Bloomington and also another one that we just